The Red Ashes of Millbrook. Some fires are started by accident. Grandma's voice was low, almost drowned by the gentle crackle of the hearth. But in Millbrook, the flames were fed by greed, and by something far older than you or me. The room was dim except for the orange glow of the firelight. Outside, the wind whispered against the shutters. Inside, I leaned closer, my mug of tea cooling in my hands as she began. Part 1. The Smell of Smoke. I was just a girl when I first heard the name Abigail Crow. Grandma said, her knitting needles pausing in midair. Millbrook was a small village, child. Smaller than this one. Just a few crooked streets where cobblestones were slick with moss and the chimneys leaned as if whispering secrets to one another. She glanced at me over the rim of her spectacles, and the smell of smoke was as common as the smell of bread. But not that kind of smoke. Not the sweet, warm smell of a kitchen oven. This was sharper, hungrier. It clawed at your throat. It began one late summer evening when the hay barn at the west edge of the village went up in flames. People said it must have been lightning, but the sky had been clear as glass that night. 2 weeks later, the weaver's shop was nothing but black beams and drifting ash. And then came the schoolhouse, gone in a single night, its bell lying cracked in the mud. By the third fire, no one believed in accidents anymore. And that was when the whispers began. Whispers about Abigail Crow. Part 2. Abigail Crow. She was a midwife, Grandma said, settling deeper into her chair. Tall as a birch tree, with eyes like winter skies, pale and cold. Her hair black as the bottom of a well. She had delivered half the village's children, including my cousin, yet somehow, she never seemed like one of us. Abigail lived alone in a weather-beaten cottage on the edge of Millbrook, where the road narrowed into forest. She came and went at strange hours, lantern swinging in hand, boots leaving long trails through the snow. But people respected her skills. A baby's first cry was often thanks to her. But respect and trust are not the same thing. One night, young Peter Gale swore he'd seen her in the alley behind the burning schoolhouse. He had been sent by his mother to fetch kindling from the woodpile, but instead, he'd frozen in his tracks. In the fire's glow, he saw Abigail holding a small brass box against her chest. It pulsed faintly, as though something inside was alive. When the constable questioned her, Abigail only smiled. "I heal the living," she said softly. "I do not burn the dead." Part 3. The Brass Box. The constable, Mr. Wren, was not a man who frightened easily. But something about Abigail's calmness made the hairs rise on his neck. The very next morning, he and 2 of the church deacons rode out to her cottage. Her home smelled faintly of rosemary and smoke. Shelves lined the walls, crowded with jars of dried herbs, bits of bone, and yellowed scraps of parchment with curling script. And there, in a cupboard beneath a stack of linens, they found it, the brass box. It was small enough to hold in both hands, but heavier than it looked. Strange markings covered its surface, curling vines that twisted into claw shapes. When Mr. Wren pressed his ear to it, he swore he heard the faintest hum, like the buzzing of bees in the distance. Inside was nothing but a pinch of fine red ash. They carried it to the church and locked it inside the vault. The box was to be sent to the city magistrate at dawn. But there was no dawn for the church. That night, a storm rolled through Millbrook. No lightning, just wind that moaned through the eaves. And when the sun rose, the church was nothing but a skeleton of blackened stones. The vault was broken. The brass box was gone. Part 4. The Pact. Grandma's eyes narrowed. They say Abigail didn't set the fires herself. They say she made a bargain, a pact with something that needed to eat, and what it ate was made of wood and air and heat. Some believed the box held the ashes of a creature from the old forest, a thing that could not walk unless fed. Others whispered that it was Abigail's husband, burned long ago in a fire no one dared to speak of. Whatever it was, the box was a hunger given shape. Over the months that followed, the fires spread beyond Millbrook, swallowing entire fields and leaving only spirals of ash where trees had stood for centuries. Families left. Those who stayed learned to sleep with buckets of water by their beds. And through it all, no one saw Abigail until the night of the harvest moon. A shepherd claimed to see her walking along the forest's edge, the brass box swinging from one hand, a lantern in the other. The lantern's flame burned red, and its light seemed to bend the shadows toward her. Part 5, The Last Sight. Years passed. Millbrook rebuilt, though the burned ruins were never touched. No one wanted to disturb the ground. Then, one autumn, a trader passing through told a story in the tavern. He had been riding by the river at dusk when he saw a woman in a tattered black shawl. She stood ankle-deep in the water, tossing pinches of red ash into the current. Her lips moved, whispering, "Drink, but do not burn here." When he turned to leave, the air behind him shimmered as if heat were rising from the earth, but the night was cold enough to frost his breath. Closing Grandma's warning, Grandma looked straight at me, her voice just above a whisper. "If you ever smell smoke where no fire should be, child, leave. Don't look for it. Don't follow it. The brass box doesn't stay buried. It moves from hand to hand. And one day," she leaned so close I could smell the faint scent of tea on her breath, "it may come looking for yours."